It's time for This Week in WordPress, episode number 173, entitled Block Patterns Should Be Called Brians. It was recorded on Monday the 26th of July 2021. My name's Nathan Wrigley and I will not be being joined by Paul Lacey as he's having a break. In fact, we're all having a break. We're taking a 2-week break after this episode is recorded, so we'll be back later in August. I'm having a bit of a well-earned rest with my family, and so a couple of weeks off. But we've got a big and packed show for you today. We are joined by Michelle Frechette, by Bob Dunn, and late to the party by Bernard Greneau. There's a lot to talk about specifically about WordPress this week because 5.8 has rolled out, and so we talk about all of the new bits and pieces that are in 5.8. We also get into the subject of TinyMCE and the fact that they've bought something called Setka, which is a little bit like a page builder. We also talk about the new updates to the Gutenberg plugin, number 11.1 we're at now, and there's a new set of features in there which we discuss. Also, the block pattern directory has gone live. It's a little bit small at the moment, but there's some new and interesting things coming down the pipe there. And GiveWP have designed a way that you can text people if you would like to donate money to them. We talk about all of that and a picture of Neptune too. It's all coming up next on This Week in WordPress. This Week in WordPress was brought to you by A/B Split Test. Do you want to set up your A/B split tests in record time? The new A/B Split Test plugin for WordPress will have you up and running in a couple of minutes. Use your existing pages and test anything against anything else. Buttons, images, headers, rows, anything. And the best part is that it works with Elementor, Beaver Builder and the WordPress block editor. Go check it out and get a free demo at absplittest.com. Hello. Good afternoon, or good morning, good evening. I sound like David Frost. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. We are here, episode number... Oh, it's written on the top of the screen, and finally, StreamYard used to truncate it, and I could never see what episode it was, but Restream, this new platform that we're on, doesn't. It's episode number 173. Usually, right there is Paul Lacey, but Paul Lacey, being the good chap that he is, he's gone on holiday with his children this week, and in fact we're actually taking a couple of weeks break because I'm going to attempt to be a good father and go on holiday with my children over the next couple of weeks. So this is the last one until something like the middle of August, and very, very pleased to have two people with us, possibly a third in just a moment's time. But we have today Michelle Frechette. How are you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. It's a little bit hot here in the UK, so I'm in complaining mode. It's gone beyond the acceptable 20 degrees Celsius threshold, and anything that's 21 plus causes moaning. So moaning will be the order.
I reserve the right to complain about any weather, whether it's hot, cold, or in between.
Oh, this is all we've got.
I'm uncomfortable.
In the UK, this is literally all we've got. It is the weirdest thing. If there's nothing to say, we genuinely talk about the weather. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, but in the UK, that is kind of the default conversation. Nothing else to say? Let's talk about the weather, shall we? Bob Dunn also joins us. He's totally on the other side of the United States, so it's crazy o'clock for him. I really appreciate getting up at like 2:30 or whatever it is.
This is my morning voice, you know.
Yeah.
It's always a little deeper because I haven't been talking all day.
Your morning voice is just every bit as good as your daily voice, your evening voice, and your afternoon voice. Very nice to have you both. Just very quickly, because Paul Lacey normally does the introductions, and sadly I'm ill prepared. Can we go firstly to Michelle? Would you just tell us a little bit about yourself in case anybody here has never come across you before?
Absolutely. So I'm Michelle Frechette. I'm the Director of Customer Success at GiveWP and have a whole bunch of other projects that I work on, including WordFest, which just was this past weekend. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, so I will save that for them.
That's okay. Thank you so much. That's really nice. And Bob, what about you? Let us know who you are as well.
Currently doing a site called dothewoo.io, and it's for the WooCommerce builder community. So real excited about doing that. Been in the space for quite a while, but this is something I've been doing for the last year.
Yeah, Bob's been doing this way longer than I have, and he's a real veteran. Go and check out everything that he does. Just Google Bob WP, and you'll probably be inundated with multiple things that you can search for and so on. We are at some point going to be joined by Bernard Greneau, but Bernard Greneau is currently caught in a traffic jam, and as a result, he's not here. So he reckons it'll be about 10 minutes. So when he comes, we'll stick him on the screen. But for now, this is nice. We've got somebody popping in saying excited for the show. Appreciate that. Somebody saying how Michelle's hair looks fabulous. Yes.
Thank you. Whoever you are, thank you.
Oh, that I never get that comment.
I don't either. No matter how long I grow it, it's like I keep growing it. It's
just dye it purple. That's what it takes.
I was so fishing there, wasn't I? And glad that you're taking a break. Oh, thank you, Lee. Lee has got the extraordinary capacity to understand how the commenting system works, because if he doesn't want to, he can remain anonymous. Like it says on the yellow thing in front of the screen, it says Facebook user. But Lee's kind of decided some midway he wants to be slightly de-anonymized. So he puts his name in brackets. If you want to do that, that's fine. But if you would like your name to show on the screen and you're in the Facebook group, then you need to go to this URL. It's terribly small, that, isn't it? But it says chat.restream.io/FB, and that will allow you to tell Facebook, yes, give Restream my credentials, let them know everything about me, including my bank and credit card details, and give all of your money to WP Builds. Good grief, I'm really not I'm not ready for today's show, am I? Something's definitely gone wrong. And Cameron, thanks for joining us. I would kill for 21 degrees right now. It's been 10 degrees for months. I know. Ain't it the case, Cameron? Whatever we haven't got, we strive to have. Right, we are going to.
Also has purple hair, by the way.
Oh, he does.
He
You
does,
can't really see it in that little picture, can you? Yeah.
But he and I have talked about the fact that we're in the purple hair club now. So.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe after the holidays I'll get a bit of dark. No, there's no way I'm going purple. No. Empty words. We're here to talk about Facebook. No, we're not. We're here to talk about WordPress. Oh dear. Really try harder, Nathan. We're here to talk about WordPress, and boy, this has been an absolutely magnificent week. Usually at this point in the show, we've gone through with the guests what's going to happen. And very often it's about 50% WordPress and then maybe 50% of other stuff. This week, there is so much WordPress stuff. It may just end up being about WordPress core and nothing else. We'll see how that goes. But let me quickly share my screen over here and kick the ball off. So this is us, WP Builds. Head over to wpbuilds.com. If you like what you're listening to or you're watching, there's a form on that page right at the top. Fill it in and it will enable us to send you emails twice a week, usually, just telling you that we've produced a bit of content. Of course, if you don't want to receive any of that, just ignore it and go to the website itself. Okay, this is probably the only non-WordPress core thing for a while, but I feel that this was something that we needed to sneak in right at the top. I could drone on about my experience of this, but my experience of this is as nothing compared to Michelle's, because Michelle has been involved right from the outset with WordFest Live. I don't even know how many hours you probably gave up to make this event happen, but I was in attendance. Yeah. The clock breaks at some point, doesn't it, Michelle? Yeah, it's only so many times it can go round.
Or the spirit does, one or the other.
Yeah. But the event happened last Friday. It was a 24-hour celebration of WordPress. I was involved in some small way on the day itself. I don't wish to claim any credit for anything. And but you do. You wish to, you want to tell us what it was like and so on. So honestly, the floor is yours. Whatever you want to say about WordFest, go for it.
Well, first, I just want to thank everybody who put countless hours into building WordFest and making it what it was. We had over 60, I think it was 66 different speakers. We had upwards of 100 different volunteers over the course of planning and the day of itself. And we had, it was, I think, 16 organizers. There's 8 of us who kind of take the main parts, and then we each have deputies under us so that if you're hit by that proverbial bus, somebody can step into your shoes the day of. And it was just It was fairy tale. The day went so well. I was just blown away with how good it was. I will say though, having put on an event like this and dealt with the stress of people not sending in their slides and their pre-recorded video, I will never do to other organizers what those people have done to me. And I am guilty. I did that to you, Nathan, at the Page Builder Summit, of being like one of the last people to submit. I will never do that to anybody again. I apologize for my past transgressions, because, oh my goodness, it is stressful when you have like 10 people still haven't submitted and it's 2 days before the day of.
Yeah,
We had
it is interesting that you do feel it more on the organizer side than you ever would on the presenter side, because of course for you it's a one-to-one relationship, isn't it? Whereas on the organizer side it's one to many, but you can't possibly square that circle. You just have to hope that everybody gets things in on time. And with you though, it was a different story. You weren't really late. You hopped in late, and I was more than happy to allow that to pass. That was fine.
But we had some speakers get sick and drop out at the last minute who were supposed to be live, and so but you never saw that on the schedule, because we had people who were prepared as backup speakers who jumped in literally with 12 hours notice, and it was seamless. So it just, everybody that was part of this, hats off to everybody, and much deserved break for Dan Maybe. I have to give him all the props. He is, the organizer, the lead organizer for the event. He is the director and the founder of Big Orange Heart, and he is the one that keeps the Big Orange Heart beating. So he is on break this week, and much deserved break, and just all the props and everything to him for sure.
Yeah, when you go to a real big WordCamp, let's say something like WordCamp London or WordCamp Europe or US or something, you are suddenly aware. You may not be, actually. It might completely pass you by, but it is possible to be aware of the organization that goes on in the background, because you see the number of people wearing the similarly colored T-shirt, and you realize, boy, there's dozens and dozens of these volunteers going on. And then you think, boy, in this event, these venues must have cost a fortune and must have taken a lot of organization, and there's all the wheelchair access and the programs to be created and all this kind of stuff. And you can really see it. But on the WordFest side, you couldn't see it because it's a screen, right? But honestly, just trust me, it was an incredible amount of work that went into it. If I could, I won't show you, but if I could show you the spreadsheet that was shared with people like me, I mean, just putting that spreadsheet together would have taken me half a year. It was thought out to the finest detail, and really impressive stuff. Very, very, very cool indeed. I have only respect for the people.
And I have to say, having both Mike Little and Matt Mullenweg in live interviews the day of the event, and all of that worked as it should have, was just amazing. And you and I were on the same session with Mike Little, and he is just delightful. What a wonderful, lovely human he is.
Yeah.
And I believe you said he was bigger than the Beatles, but whatever.
Well, yeah, I don't quite know what happened there, but I said that when I was a child, if somebody had said to me, what's the best sentence that could come out of your mouth, it would have been, "Hi, I'm Nathan Wrigley, and I'm in the Beatles." That was like, where do you go from there? It's as good as it gets. And then I said, and then I grew up a bit, and then kind of lost interest in the Beatles a bit, and now it would be, "Hi, I'm Nathan Wrigley, and I co-founded WordPress." And of course, there he was, Mike Little, on the screen, and it was so nice to talk to him. He's such a gentleman. It became obvious. So anyway, props.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, Mike Little is one of the founders, the co-founder of WordPress. He is
one of the co-founders of WordPress. Can I just draw attention to, on the screen, if you go here right at the top, they're looking for some feedback, and I would really like their event to get some feedback. So it ends up at wordfest.live/feedback, and there's a fairly simple form that you can fill out. There's probably a dozen questions or something, but it's point click. There is no there's one field at the bottom where you can type text. So honestly, it'll take seconds. Really appreciate it on behalf of everybody on that team if you wouldn't mind going and giving your feedback, because I know that the feedback makes a big difference to the events that I'm running. The feedback is something that we genuinely look through and we try to make it better. So yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Right, we're joined by Bernard. Hey, Bernard, how are you doing?
Hello, quite fine. Thanks. Being late,
Bernard,
but that's not my fault.
that's okay. You got through the traffic jam, okay? Yeah.
No, it's just my car didn't start properly.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's. I think it's a software issue. Electric car, new shiny toys.
Yeah. Whoever
Happens.
thought that like putting a computer in a car was a good idea? I just want a key. I want a key which manually turns the ignition on, where if I lose the key, it's my stupid fault. I don't want any of the... So all of my cars have keys. I don't want the computerized car. We could get into the whole self-driving
thing. Anyway, computerized, because
you have a computer anyway.
Imported stuff like, I don't know,
I
don't and stuff like that, and but it's convenient. I must tell you, if you it's the first car which has this lane assist and stuff like default, like keeping the distance to the car in front of you, so you just put in your speed, and it's chilly driving. I mean, driving an electric car is a different story anyway. And if you put on top then those convenience features, it's very refreshing, because you just lean back, drive a little bit, but the car would hold the lane itself, and it takes care of the speed. So I don't mind it, and you can take control whenever you feel the need for it.
Yeah, I'm a bit fearful of the advent of self-driving cars. I don't think I'm quite ready to get in a self-driving car yet.
You know that computers make less mistakes than humans.
Yeah, but at least it's my mistake.
Yeah, but if somebody dies from it, it's...
Oh, yeah, you're right. But anyway, we really should...
Sorry, maybe off topic.
This week in self-driving cars.
We should have turned it on and off, It would work better.
That's right. But thank you for joining us, Bernard. We haven't got time for the usual introductions, because we are about to sort of start properly. We've just been talking about WordFest and how absolutely fabulous it was. But the big news of this week, I'll put the screen back on. The big news of this week is that one of probably the biggest release of WordPress in, I think, years and years and years has just rolled out. Hopefully by now you've had enough faith in WordPress to update your websites. I know that some people kind of hold out for a little while, especially when it's a point release like this. When we get to 6, a lot of people will hold off, but I've basically updated everything, and there was nothing that went wrong. It's called Tatum, as always, after some jazz musician, in this case, Art Tatum. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a jazz pianist, not somebody that I'm familiar with. But loads and loads and loads of good stuff in this release. So just to sort of paraphrase, if that's all right with everybody else, I'll just go through what the bullet point list is, and then we can talk about bits individually. We have the ability to manage widgets with blocks, so you can basically put blocks inside a widget, so that adds some kind of legacy to WordPress. There's a new block. You can display posts with block patterns. Now, you might have been using this for ages, but it's now been surfaced in a much more obvious way, and hopefully people are using it more. I'll leave the edit templates around posts for a moment. There are some other things here. There's the overview page structure. It looks a little bit like this. It's like a little pane which sits on the left-hand side, and it tells you where all of your blocks are and how they're nested. This is probably my favorite bit of this release. There's also going to be suggested patterns for blocks. So based upon the kind of things that you've been doing with blocks, it's going to suggest other patterns that you might like to use in the future. You can style and colorize images with this duotone filter. It's a bit of a weird one, but you can sort of set 2 colors and it'll make any old image look a little bit here. Then you've got some theme developer type stuff. You can export styles. So if you're a theme developer, you can have default styles that are inherited when anybody installs that theme, that are sort of switched on or switched off inside the block editor. So that's quite nice. Dropping support for IE3. Yay. Sorry, IE11, not IE3. IE anything, basically. Anything beginning with Internet Explorer is now no longer supported. And we've got the ability now to add WebP images as well. So absolutely boatloads in it. I'll stick my flag in the sand and say this new block inspector thing is my absolute favorite. I've been using it this week. One of the things that I really like about it is that you can just grab things if you've got a really long page, if you're writing long form content and you suddenly decide that this entire section belongs 6.5 meters above where it's currently fixed. you can just drag it with the inspector and it'll go along. You can also drag things from the inspector into the main text. So if you've got a block that you just want to slot in somewhere, you can drag it out and put it elsewhere. I find that to be the most compelling thing for this release. But it's absolutely huge. I don't know who wants to go first, but I'll take it that one of you wants to leap in, I hope.
I love the idea of being able to drag and drop in that frame on the left-hand side. To me, it's as big as when suddenly you could edit CSS in the theme, in the drop-down editor, because prior to that, you needed to either know how to code and do those kinds of things and add things to your site, or have a plugin for that, right? And so when that got added, and then also it was very easy to use because it would tell you if you were making a mistake. To me, that was huge. This is that magnitude, if not more, because it just makes it so much easier to edit your site and to know exactly what things look like and what blocks are what. And especially if you're taking over for somebody else, right? So if you didn't write it, but you have to edit it now because you're working on a blog with somebody else, now you can see exactly what it is that you're working with, and you have a much easier way. It's faster to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah, it really is significantly faster. It's the kind of thing that I feel that the direction of travel here has been coming down from page builders. It's like page builders down, and WordPress have taken some fabulous cues. And I think they've done a really nice job of it. It sort of locks itself in position on the side, whereas previously it was some sort of opening thing that hovered over the top. So that's really nice as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bob,
I discovered it. Well, I discovered it when I was actually going to 20 different separate posts and moving something from the very beginning to the end. And it was like, oh my God, it was like an epiphany for me. Music came on and everything, and it was so much easier. But no, I really like that. I like I'm particularly fond of the query loop, just because I've used that in so many ways through themes, through their widgets and stuff, pulling in content, being able to have content display a certain way and stuff. So I guess I'm looking forward to what people do with that, because I think there's going to be a lot built around that. And I like that. I went in and just, I think actually my host auto updated, and I went in and said, oh, cool. Started playing around with things. And what was really interesting, and I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes. I feel like I'm in a WordPress, I don't know what, vortex, and I'm thinking, was this here before? I changed the color of my I'm not sure all the little tweaks I did, but I changed the color of my admin, and I suddenly noticed by doing that, the little dots when I would go to schedule a post, the little dots under the numbers that show when there is a post, it's almost, do you know what I'm talking about? It's really strange. And I don't know if that's something that just came out, or because I changed the color of my admin, it's more apparent to me. But it's, when you're looking at your little calendar and you're going to select a date.
Okay.
It shows you little dots of where there's already a post scheduled for that day.
Okay. There was something around, I'm sure there was something around schedule. My memory's failing.
Because it's such a tiny, I was telling Matt Mullenweg once on the podcast, I find the little bizarre things most helpful for me. That's like, because sometimes I'm trying to remember, what day was that? I don't have a post. I'm trying to schedule it, and I don't want to go back here and look at the date and everything. And there's all these tiny little dots. And the other thing that, I don't know if any of you have this problem, and I noticed they fixed it in this version, is when you go in to select a date for scheduling and a time, sometimes it would close after you did one. You'd select the date and you'd go, okay, now I got to open it again, put the time in. They fixed that.
No, that's still failing for me. I just did it.
Oh, really?
Today.
It fixed with this one. So I don't know. Maybe it was just
So you had
osmosis or something.
You had to pick the date, and as soon as you'd pick the date, it would collapse, and you had to open
now
it.
It's not doing it for me after 5.8.
Oh, okay. You got a special 5.8.
Yeah, I did. 5.8.bob.
Yeah, that's right. You got the Bob release, which is really nice. No, I'll tell
maybe you got a caching issue. Maybe you thought.
I suspect you're right. And because I wasn't looking for it being fixed, it didn't even occur to me. But now that Bob said that, I'm going to be furious until it's fixed. But two things that I noticed in the block editor, the line height has gone. It's collapsed. So whatever it was before, I had really nice spacing. So in my theme, which is the Beaver Builder theme on the WP Builds website, in the block editor, the spacing was almost identical to how it outputs on the front end. Now everything is compressed, so the ascenders and the descenders collide. So that was one thing, and I haven't looked into why that might be just yet, but hopefully somebody will be able to shout out and go, oh, it's obvious, it's this. And the other thing that I noticed, which is really pathetically trivial, is the dots when you log in and supply your password. They're now bigger. That's how exciting my life is. I noticed the little dots when you put your password in are slightly bigger.
That you even didn't notice.
Yeah.
You know, if we would have actually done this together live, Nathan, it would be just pathetic how excited we'd be over these small little things.
That's
People
right.
would be saying, "Oh God, get these guys off."
Look at those dots. They're way too big. But there was obviously a whole boatload. I should probably put the WP Tavern article, because as always, as soon as something happens in WordPress core, or in the WordPress ecosystem, WP Tavern, hop on. And Justin Tadlock's done a bit here. And to speak to Bob's point, the where's it gone? There we go. The query loop, I think, is probably the most exciting, not for me because I'm already doing this in other ways, but probably the most exciting for the project, because now you'll be able to start to create your own custom queries without having to know any kind of code. So you'll be able to say, I only want to show things with this category or this particular tag or whatever it might be. And all of a sudden, the ability to create listings and make pages where only specific types of content are shown won't live within the purview of an experienced developer. You'll be able to do this natively in WordPress for free without learning a third-party tool. And I just think this is utterly fabulous. Yeah.
It's heading in the right direction. I mean, my beef with Gutenberg.
Yeah. But still, this is not Gutenberg as such. This is just, yeah. But I know with your background in pods, you've obviously got, there's a great deal more that you can do with pods than you can currently.
Not only or Beaver theme but it's heading in the right direction. When you think about it, if you then put this query loop and this block and make it aware of the current context, you're almost there what Beaver Thema does somewhat. So you're not far away from full site editing for archive pages or other stuff, because you can build your archive page now, and it's just one step to let it be the actual archive page and not just another page which serves the same purpose. So it's kind of weird a little bit, at least it feels for me. And I'm still missing the whole I like the way it heads, but I'm still not satisfied with the user experience around any metadata, because it's still in this tiny sidebar and it's many clicks and it's not obvious for many people. At least that was my findings when I let others test it. So I don't know, but it's hard to get the proper UX for that part. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have an idea. Perhaps I would have submitted it, but I don't like the whole handling of custom fields and metadata, because the editor itself, it's getting great, I think.
Yeah, I kind of feel that the promise of delivering on this is just sort of still slightly out of reach. And what I mean by that is it's still going to be really difficult for a complete novice to WordPress to make head nor tail of what any of this does. And there'll still be a requirement to go out and read blog posts and what have you. But I guess each iteration, each time we jump through a point release and get to the next version of WordPress, it just gets a little bit better. And we are dealing with these things are quite hard to understand. The idea of, well, what is a loop? What does a query mean? It's complete gobbledygook, isn't it? And we'll get there.
In the end, do we need to get to a point, it's a more philosophical question, where everybody can just understand it? Because a few years back, I had a discussion with with a customer. She had a cosmetic studio. I said, "Oh, you're so great that I need to know all that stuff." And then I told her, "Why? I don't know you how to do your stuff either. And I get my car repaired at a car dealer. I don't do it myself." I mean, because there need to be room for experts or stuff like that. You can't know everything and use everything, because just it's runs on a computer, so everybody needs to know how it works or how to do it. I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. I fully agree on that, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have at least a little bit of pre-requirement to understand about what is a blog or what is a post, or I don't know, stuff like that. Because if you want to use those advanced features, you need to know that stuff to make it properly, to build it properly. So it's maybe it's a good thing that it gets simpler to use, because then you can educate your colleagues or whoever is in charge of writing the texts, but they don't need to understand everything behind it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's almost, I was just going to say, it's almost pie in the sky. I've often thought of this over the years when I hear that talked about, because there's just too many variables. Everybody uses their site differently, has different needs with the site. I mean, it's just amazing. And, most of us have been doing this a long time, and I can bet each one of us has learned something new in the last week with WordPress, or this is kind of interesting. So
the little dots in the
some
password
basic
field.
stuff. Yeah, it's like I'm watching my own videos. I'm going back. I'm Googling. I swear to God, I do this. I go back and watch my own videos, and like, aha, I'm glad you're around. I talk to myself a lot, so it's rather pathetic, but it's true. You just there's so much to do, and you can't even retain it all. And if we expect beginners or people that are just starting to retain it, when those that have worked on it so long, it's like, we're constantly revisiting, relearning, and that's just the way it is, especially in technology.
Yeah. But what's interesting is people who are just starting to use WordPress now, it's native to them. So they don't have to learn it the way that we have to relearn it, right? So that makes a difference too. When Gutenberg first came out and everybody was like, feet screeching against the ground, like, I will not do it, and I've never tried it, but I'm going to leave a terrible review in the repo about this plugin right now and all of that, and then I hired somebody who'd never used WordPress before, and he taught me Gutenberg because it was native to him. He just jumped in and learned it, right? And I had stopped teaching WordPress because I hadn't had the time to learn Gutenberg yet. So I mean, it's that kind of thing. I also think, have you ever seen the TV show The Good Place, where like they all die and they wake up and they're in heaven, the good place, and on the wall it says, welcome, everything is fine. I think we should replace hello world with welcome, everything is fine, every time we have a new update.
You have a plugin for that, don't you?
I do, actually. Hello, I should add that to the list.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, first page that you create is hello, everything's fine.
Everything is fine.
Yeah. Go on, Bernard,
I totally agree with Pop. I mean, Google, I think in our business, the important skill of all is to read and understand how to use Google and how to just check out which article you need or which input, because you can't remember it all. Because it's such a broad topic, and always there's something new and a new tool and that and this. So it's always learning. So that's one of the things I like about this job, because you're forced to keep on your toes, to learn new stuff, don't get settled in your ways. At Gutenberg is for sure a big change. And for somebody who didn't use WordPress before and think it's great, it's just I don't like it because I tend to have people who are regularly on the show knows that's my topic around, because I normally have like the old style was you have your title, your post field, and then fill out these fields and everything looks fine. So as soon as you have structured content, you are lost with Gutenberg, because they are way down the fields or hidden on the side to select the category or stuff like that. I find it cumbersome. I don't know how it works for you. So
Bernard just told us that the heels on his shoes wore out by being dragged into Gutenberg.
He is being dragged. It will get him there. One day Bernard will come on the show and say, I am satisfied now with Gutenberg. It's good enough now. Yeah, just a couple of things that have come in. The Cameron again, thank you, Cameron. You're very full of comments today. He says overall he thinks it's a great release. The theme JSON file, yeah, this is we're getting into the developer end of things, which I could probably show you. That right at the bottom of the WP Tavern article, Justin talks about this and about how it's fairly limited in scope at the moment, but it would appear that Cameron's having real problems with it. Cameron is a developer and has obviously found it to be tremendously buggy because this is, unfortunately, the theme JSON is so buggy it's not funny. And he also says, "You're not alone, Bob." This is probably about the memory thing. Yeah, honestly, that tickled me.
He didn't say that about Bernard,
and it's interesting. I get people that ask me, "Oh, Bob, have you written a post about this?" And I want to say, and I end up going and searching my site, which Jake could have done too. So it's kind of, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
You've written so many that you genuinely have no recollection of writing.
And half of them are gone, and I still search for them, which is pathetic in its own way.
Yeah. There is one other user in the Facebook group.
Know that, like, you have done a project and you remember, I have used that. When did I use it? Where did I use it? Oh, yes, it was. And then you go searching and find it. But it's
Hello, Facebook user, whoever you are that's saying hello, everyone. Hello. If you want to say who you are, either write it in the comment itself or go to the URL, which I'm about to put on the screen. It's chat.restream.io/FB. And that will allow us to see who you are. You made an interesting comment, Bob, just a second ago, and that was the fact that, or was it Bernard? I can't remember. There you go. There's the memory at work. Just like
we're a pathetic group here.
I know. Who are you? Who are all of you? I have no idea how I got in this room. I have found that to be a feature of my life. You mentioned that you like the challenge all the time. Whenever I've done a job, and I've done quite a few different jobs during the course of my life, whenever I've found that there is no longer anything to learn, I very quickly become bored of the job and want to do something completely different. Not like WordPress. That's one of the things I think which has enabled me to stick around, and web development in general. The fact that it is never, ever, it's never going to stop. The juggernaut will never grind to a halt, which is cause of anxiety in some respects because I am getting left behind. The new kids on the block can do things that I've got no pretensions that I'm going to make the effort or keep up with them. But it is interesting watching it from the periphery, doing what I can do to stay up where I need to stay updated. I just feel that's a really important part of tech for me. The fact that it keeps me busy because I'm curious and I want to learn. Right. Should we go to the next piece? The next one is, this is, I don't know if there's a great deal to talk about around this one, but I'm going to mention it anyway. This is the classic editor, the one that Bernard loves so much. Was an implementation of TinyMCE, and TinyMCE is a product created by a company called Tiny. I don't know if company is the right word, but anyway, it's created by the organization Tiny. And it would appear that they want to get into the sort of Gutenberg page buildery type space because they have acquired a company called Setka. And go over to the Tavern article. I'll link to it in the show notes. You'll be able to find this one. It's called Makers of TinyMCE Acquire Setka. Sarah Goodin writing this. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, but they've obviously got this feeling that a simple text editor is not enough. And I'm just slightly curious as to why they didn't put their endeavors into something a bit like Gutenberg, why they've decided to go their own separate way. Because Setka appears to be what I consider to be something halfway between Visual Composer and something like Elementor. You can see all of the bits and pieces that you wouldn't see on a page. I'm probably better off not describing it, but imagine you're constructing a page and it's got 3 columns and so on and so forth. When you build things, everything is strictly demarcated by horizontal and vertical lines so that you can see, okay, this has got 3 columns, even though most of them might be empty or you may decide to put things in there. It's just curious that a company that's making TinyMCE also want to be in the page builder space. I don't know if anybody's got anything to add to this or not.
Well, you need to stay in the business and keep innovating and try new stuff because else you get at some point are no longer needed. I don't know. Maybe it's something like that, because this page builder stylish thingy of using stuff is for sure the future. I mean,
let me just Google Setka and I'll show you what I found, and you'll see whether you like it or not. You'll see that I'm using .go. Here you go. Look, here's the way it looks on the screen. Sorry if you're listening to this on audio. We're actually just looking at what it looks like. It's kind of like you got the panel along the top with the typical editing function. So left, right. I actually, as soon as I saw that, I thought I'm at home with that. I really like the fact that the editing stuff is on the top, a bit like in a Google Doc. So if you want to align things left and right, it just resides on the top, and I'm really familiar with that. And then you've got this palette of things down the right-hand side, which do various other pieces. And unfortunately, the video that I was looking at earlier seems to have gone away off this website. It just, I don't know, it's just curious that they would want to, I don't know, just it's a bit odd.
Well, when you understand that WordPress is closing in on 45% of the internet, why would you not want to create something that's part of that 45%? So as opposed to leaning into something that already exists, everybody wants to have their own piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And I think there's room for many different takes.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about how many form plugins we already now have. I mean, I've lost track of them, and I can't say because I haven't tested all of them, or how many page builders there are now, leaving Gutenberg aside, but from Elementor, which started from nowhere and is now one of the biggest, or Prezi, or Beaver Builder, or Oxygen, kinda, or I don't know, the
Divi.
old ones are still around. It's Divi and all the other stuff, and some even continue to use Visual Composer. It's a nightmare for me, but hey, they know it from way back and they still use it.
Yeah.
And so there is room, and there's always room for little niche, especially if you go to that high of numbers with WordPress. And maybe that's one reason WordPress will reach that numbers, because of the flexibility, because hey, I can use this tool or that tool or switch it out or whatever. I don't know how many search engine plugins there are now. And then still you think, okay, they can't do a new thing, and then somebody does it differently and gets attention and a share. You never know.
To me, it just, I always sound facetious when I say it, but it's jumping on the bandwagon. Hey, things are working, things are going in a certain direction. And, I mean, that sounds very, maybe negative connotation, but it's true. It's, they're seeing what's happening. And like Michelle and Bernard both said, hey, they're following the stream.
Yeah, this is the WordPress implementation. So they've got a WordPress plugin, and you can just see what I mean by it's kind of like mimicking the page builder, but also the fact that it's adding in all of these extra horizontal and vertical lines to give you a real strong indication of where things are. Able to, by the looks of it, achieve some really quite intriguing layouts. I don't know what the technology is behind that or how it's implemented, but I did find it curious. I thought it was really interesting that we've got another editor. And I did, of course, start to think, I wonder if when WordPress moved away from using TinyMCE, and obviously at some point in the near future is going to stop implementing that and supporting it in any way, shape or form, whether or not they were just thinking, well, our bottom line is going to disappear. The interest in TinyMCE will evaporate because the giant in the room, WordPress, is stopping to use it. I can't see myself using something like this. Just don't see anything here for me. But anyway, it's out there. You guys can check it out. And obviously the guys behind TinyMCE probably know a thing or two about building stuff like this. Michelle, Bob, Bernard, anything else, or shall I move on?
Let's move on.
Okay. Fair. Do you know what? I've got this browser and I've got it in dark mode, and I'm really struggling to see which tab is currently open. There we go. I think it's this one. Now then, back to where we should be. Gutenberg 11.1. We did mention this earlier, so I'll just sort of go through this reasonably quickly. We've got Bernard. Were you here when we were talking about this?
Yeah.
You were here when we were talking about this bit. Yeah. Okay. So Gutenberg obviously is a plugin which stands in isolation to WordPress core. You have to go and download this 11.1, but there's quite a lot of nice new stuff. We were talking about this new list view, which is quite nice. Justin, he's obviously been looking for this for a long time. Look, he says, drum roll, please, at the beginning of his article. And then right at the end, he says, I do not often use emoji, but sometimes I like to dole out a slow clap for a job well done. And he's done 2 clapping emojis. He's obviously delighted with that. Border support, can't see that's going to be something I'm particularly going to use. But if you are wanting to put borders around things like buttons, groups, images, searches, and tables, that's all going to be taken care of in the UI. Nice Gutenberg-esque UI for that. And you'll be able to decide whether or not you want your columns blocks to stack on mobile. Currently, if you use the columns block or columns in Gutenberg, no matter what you do, they're always going to stack on mobile. So they'll be stacked one on top of the other. And now you can switch that off. So Justin's making the point that if you've got a tiny little set of horizontal things that you wish to remain horizontal on mobile, so in this case, it's just his image with some stuff about when it was published and so on, you're going to be able to keep that. Tag clouds, anybody using tag clouds? Bueller, anyone? No? Okay. And you can you can create submenu navigation colors as well. So there's a whole load of nice stuff coming in there. Anybody chime in?
If you use those colors, just make sure that you are always using proper contrast for people who have low vision issues, right? So that if you're using blue on blue, for example, you want to make sure that your site stays accessible. So giving more options like that always gives you more opportunity to fail.
Do they? Was there not? Forgive me, Michelle. I could be completely wrong about this. I have a memory. Crikey, there we go. There is something going on up there. I have a memory that this was going to be taken care of. It was going to suggest things which were of high contrast. I don't know if that's in there or not. Presumably, you can override them anyway. Given that it may or may not be in there, what's your preferred way of making sure that contrast is something that you're taking care of? Do you have a tool that you go to? Or?
There are websites. Off the top of my head, I can go find one for you, but there are websites that will look at your, kind of do the overview of your site. You put the page in there and it'll let you know what kinds of issues you have. But generally speaking, contrast is one of those things that people who aren't using screen readers still need to be able to see. So, light text on a light background is very difficult for some people to read, especially as you get older. I like to see a nice dark, large font on the page for my own eyes. Cameron's saying there is a warning if you pick colors with poor contrast. The problem with that is you can still do it, right? So you might decide that you may decide that you still like it, but it's just not a good decision. So I just wanted to make sure that with all of these options you have, that you keep accessibility in mind.
Yeah, and it's important to use really test tools because you can be fooled by the contrast. I have seen contrast option which to the normal eye you look perfectly fine, and then you go and test it and it's very, very poor because there are sudden color blindnesses and stuff like that which shift the way how the contrast works. So if you Google for a test tool, you find many they are checking for all the accessibility issues. And for example, Firefox, the color picker Firefox shows you the contrast ratio too, like the number for it, because it depends if it's a large font or a smaller font, how great the contrast must be or should be. There are suggested values somewhere hidden in the, I don't know, and you can see on those sides, okay, you can make the font size bigger, then the contrast is okay, or you change the color. So sometimes it can help to make the font a little bit bigger and you have less contrast issues.
So is that like an inbuilt color picker within? It's such a long time since I used Firefox properly.
Yeah, with the inbuilt tools, Firefox shows you the contrast. If it's not always perfectly, because depends if the color picker picks the proper color for the background, especially if you have transparency and stuff going on, it's not always proper, but you get an indication about the rating you get.
Yeah. Okay. I've got to say, I listen to a whole variety of different podcasts, some of them related to internet privacy and security, and seems to be a real endeavor on the part of Mozilla to be looking out for people who are privacy and security conscious, the ability to stop tracking by default and really going the extra mile. And it may very well be that at some point fairly soon I drop Chromium as my browser and go to.
I moved to Brave.
Yeah, that's what
Chrome.
I'm using because I'm totally wedded to the Chrome extensions ecosystem. There's just like boatloads of them that I've got, and I don't even know if they're available on the Firefox side, but there's just
I think most of the stuff, for the daily stuff, I'm not always using Firefox, but if it comes to development stuff or a little bit digging deeper into some CSS issues or stuff like that, these Firefox developer tools are still the best, because for grid and stuff like that, you see the grid laid out and you see in colors where all the lines are. So it's great for debugging grid and Flexbox stuff too. And I found it better than Chrome, but I would need to check again because those tools rapidly change in so many areas.
Peter Ingersoll, thank you. He's mentioned that there's, again, dragging me back into the Chrome ecosystem. There's an accessibility tool called Wave.
Yep.
And yeah, is that right?
I just posted the link for that.
Yeah, I've got that.
The link for that in our private chat.
Put that in. It's over at wave.webaim.org. By the looks
yeah, that's the one I'm using regularly too.
Thank you, Peter. That's really helpful. And Peter, I'm guessing you're recommending it because you've used it and you actually think it's good at that job. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, so bottom line seems like we don't. I was just going to say bottom line is find a tool and don't depend on your own eyes or ask your family to tell you what the contrast looks like.
Right. Yeah. I was recently on the UK. The UK has there's a whole bunch of websites which are in this one domain, shall we say, and they're all to do with government. So it might be like school applications or COVID testing or whatever, and it's all done in this. And I use it quite a lot, but I was looking at it today with kind of fresh eyes. I don't know why, but suddenly the accessibility thing was in my head, and I thought that if any website is going to need to be accessible, it's this one. And I was really, really drawn to how big the text was everywhere, just slightly bigger, but bigger. And all of the checkboxes were enormous, absolutely enormous, but they looked beautiful. And so it was obviously an attempt to make it as accessible as possible, but there wasn't a single bit of it which I felt the style had been, let's say, compromised, for want of a better word. It all looked absolutely fabulous. And even with, I would dare to say, pretty poor eyesight, you would be able to I would imagine, glean everything that you needed to off this page. And if you needed to put your finger on a mobile phone to click that, tick that checkbox, you really would have to try quite hard to misfire and get it in the wrong place. So it's another.
On a side note, I was at a WordCamp and handed somebody my phone to take a picture, and they said, "My God, Bob, why is your font so freaking huge on your phone?" It's like
my daughter makes fun of me for that.
It's like I looked at him and just scowled at him. Your day will come, buddy.
Just looked at him and said, "Who are you? I don't even recognize you." The friend of mine, I saw it was exactly 12 months between seeing her one time and seeing her the next time. And she's always had the very latest iPhone. And a year ago when I saw her, she had the iPhone and there was nothing remarkable about it. It was, it was just her iPhone. This year I saw it and I think her eyes have obviously deteriorated enormously during the space of this year. And the font was such that you could only really fit a 10-letter word across the screen. It was truly enormous. Yeah, it was truly enormous. And I made exactly the same sort of silly comment. I said, "Wow, your eyes have really," and she said, "Yeah, this is now where I'm at. This is what I've got to do. I can get just a handful of characters across the screen at the same time." So her experience of the internet on that phone was so different to mine. I could sort of leisurely hold the screen, read a fairly long article with just swiping a couple of times, and then you get the whole thing finished. For her, it was a constant process of swiping, reading, and there was no way of separating the two things. Swiping and reading happen at exactly the same moment. I found that really curious and not something I'd ever really thought about, but it was truly enormous. But then the flip side of me was thinking, how fabulous is that we've got a tool in our hand which can enlarge text at the click of a button. Go back to printed materials, and once you've bought the book, that's it. You're either holding the magnifying glass or pushing it further away. But My Kindle, the text has slowly but surely been getting bigger over the years.
Yep.
Same here.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes the book seem longer too,
Yeah. It's a good point.
Suddenly it goes from 200 pages to 1,000, it's like, it's amazing.
I feel
Same number of words, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel my Kindle is fast becoming my favorite piece of tech, actual hardware. I'm drawn to it more and more and more. I don't know what it is, but as I get older, I'm desiring to shut the laptop, whereas I was always desiring to keep the laptop open in the evening. Now I'm desiring to shut down the laptop and get the Kindle out and spend an hour or two reading in the afternoon. I think it's I don't know what that is, but I'm just so delighted that I've got it and the technology
Maybe it
exists.
feels more like a book, like you're used to, because we all have started out using real books and printed stuff, and it's sometimes still like feeling a paper is different. Although I'm doing most of my stuff digitally because I don't hate the paper laying around, and then you don't find what you need, and then you've lost it or whatever. But if you take an iPad in your hand or a Kindle, it feels more like a book or a piece, and you can hold it differently, like from your position and stuff like that. So I think it's you can and you can use it on a couch or wherever. Using the laptop on a couch is kind of, at least for me, it feels, I can't do it. It's not the right thing to do.
No, I get it, and also you can put yourself in those spots where you wouldn't have the ability to, like the beach is a great example. You can sit on the beach, and with a Kindle, you can literally hold it above your head to block the sunlight. Imagine trying to do that with a laptop or an iPad.
You need strong.
Yeah,
it's a training.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow your mind and tell you I read all my books on my phone. So every book I've read in the last 3 years has been on my iPhone.
Wow.
I just download the app, and then I have my
no words
wherever I go.
No, I've got to say,
I scroll with my thumb.
I have no truck with this, Michelle. I think of
It's let's move on. That was that freaked me out. I'm sorry.
I confess though, the ability for me to flip from a book to the Kindle was seamless. I remember the day I was absolutely convinced that all of that side of technology, ebooks, was not for me until I held one. And a friend of mine got one of the first Kindles with the little keyboard at the bottom and the round keys. And I was just curious. I said, "What's that?" And she said, "It's my new Kindle." And I almost like, ugh. And then I just out the corner of my eye caught sight of it. And it was like, "Oh, give me that! Oh, let me hold it. I want to see it." And that was it. The second I saw it, and she said, "Yeah, it can hold like 4,000 books." Oh, okay, fine.
I had a Nook instead of the Kindle, and I went on vacation. This was probably 7 years ago now. Went on vacation and read 4 books, but it only took up this much space in my luggage, and I was sold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I couldn't consume it on a phone. It would make my eyes hurt. I would definitely.
I mean, I make the text bigger. That's all.
Oh, I see. Do you do like an auto?
What is it, like 9,000 pages in?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it's still the same amount of words.
Yeah.
Do
you auto scroll it though? Do you have something which makes the text sort of move? Because that would be my frustration with the Kindle, because I'm holding it with the one hand and my thumb. The way that I hold it, my thumb hovers over the screen, and you just need the merest touch on the screen, and it'll flip to the next page. And it just does. There is no scroll; it's just one page, next page, and you can do the same on the other side. So you can go backwards if you accidentally go forwards.
It's just a scroll with your thumb.
You've just got that little habit going.
It's one enormous page on the Kindle app, but on the Nook app, it just you swipe and it has a page, like a page pagination. So.
That's curious. You are the first person I know who reads entire books on an iPhone. That's fascinating. Okay. All right. Let's move on if Nathan can find his mouse. There it is. Next one then is, I think, possibly one of the biggest things that we've got going on at the moment is the WordPress.org block pattern directory, which is now live. I should probably explain what a block pattern is if you're listening to this and you haven't a clue. Imagine if you're using a page builder or something like that, it's pre-designed things. So it may be a hero section. It may be a layout where you've got an image on the left and a contact form on the right or some text on the left and so on. It's a pre-configured thing. And they can be as complicated as you like or as simple as you like. Currently, they're not that straightforward to create. Sort of, I feel that they're out of the realms of non-developers, shall we say, but soon to change. And at the moment, there's not many things in a directory that you can download, but the directory is kind of launched, and you can now go and find these for yourselves. The fear, I guess, is that we'll end up with uniformity in websites. There'll be a few block patterns which rise to the top, and maybe they'll just create a design which we see all over the place. But I just think this is a fabulous initiative. The idea of WordPress, of course, is to democratize publishing, and the ability for non-technical users to go and find layouts, designs made by people who really know what they're doing. You basically click a button, and from the moment it's on the page, it's yours to edit. You can take bits out, resize the text, change the color, and so on. It's just brilliant, and I want this to be a real thumping success.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love it. I love the ideas. Am I the only one that finds it a bit confusing that they're called patterns?
Yes.
No,
You know,
that's the thing that I think of. When I first heard the term, I thought of something totally different. I mean,
polka dots, chevrons, stripes.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of people just starting, beginners and stuff, and and I know that's a small thing because you learn it, you figure it out, and you're beyond that. But that was the very first thing that struck me was the name of it, and I just found it a bit confusing. But
yeah, no, I still think it's confusing, especially. So, for example, one of the things that I've got a plugin called Newsletter Glue, which I keep talking about because I really am deeply impressed by it, and it allows me to create newsletters from blog posts, and it's done with their collection of, I think now 7 blocks, and their templates, which would be far better called templates, have to be called patterns, because if you wish to save them, they're going to appear in the block editor as a pattern. And you're right, it doesn't fit. It didn't take me too long to just forget that patterns was the wrong word and so on. But I think everything else uses the word template for this. It's a page template or a layout template or whatever. And yeah, I think it's possibly not the right word for this. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's difficult because layout is so generally, and I think it's not. It didn't strike me as odd, because for me the pattern is something like reusable, because you have patterns in all kinds of flavors. In I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of the non-tech person. What pattern means to them. I mean, it's hard sometimes to reach outside. Or understand why we easily adapt to it, but we don't need to, keep talking.
Yeah, it's interesting because coming from the software
it is an interesting thing, and I still, every time I hear it, it jars me always a little bit. It's like pattern. I know what a pattern is, but if a lot of people I know, if I said, "What do you consider a pattern on a page?" and they'd probably come up with something totally different,
Yeah, it's almost like the decoration on wallpaper or something. Feels like that's what the pattern is. The wallpaper itself is the template.
If you come from the programming side, then you have stuff like software design patterns, or like a general solution, or like an algorithm how to solve specific things. So that's a software design pattern, and you have patterns all over it. So it kind of felt natural. Maybe a way to separate them from other stuff, because templates, yes, they are templates, but in the end, they're patterns because you fill it with different content.
Yeah, so we can feel rest assured that all the developers get it. And that's all that matters.
At least I understand it.
If that's been solved, we've conquered the world. I
think we should call them something really divorced from anything. Like maybe they should just be called like Brian's or something like that, or you know,
Yeah.
I'm going to download a nice Brian for my website, or a Cynthia or something like that. Perhaps not.
As many thousands of words there are in the English language, until you try to name something, you have no idea of the limitations of the English language.
That's right. That's right. There's a word for everything except when you need a new one, and then suddenly it's
Then there's one word for 5 things, but you
that's a
can't
very
distinguish
good
which one it
point.
is.
Yeah,
Try to explain to people why I have something called Do the Woo, you know. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I thought it was hard enough to tell people what I did, you know.
So on the screen, we're looking at some implementations of this, and it said, by the sounds of it, I forget who, probably Justin. Yeah, Justin was the writer of this piece. The 20 volunteers who've contributed their own patterns, and you see, I wanted to say design or template. Then they have categorized them as follows, and you can actually just search. There's like a category filter, so they're mixed up into buttons, columns, galleries, headers, images, and text. I don't know if anything will be added in the future. Looks like we've got about 70 patterns at the moment. So this really, really, really is the very, very beginnings. And I feel that there are career-making opportunities in this for people. If somebody was to really throw themselves headlong into this and come up with some splendid block patterns that everybody was, you know, in awe of, I feel that somebody who as yet is struggling to find their way in WordPress, this feels like the cusp of something. You could really make a name.
I've heard that a lot from people I have on my podcast, because there are a lot of builders and a lot of people from Core talking about it. That's been the kind of the over and over I've heard it. They said this is probably one of the bigger areas that there's going to be incredible opportunity for growth, and stuff, and who knows where it goes and stuff. So I think little industries made within that for sure.
Yeah, and they look nice. The ones that we're showing on the screen, sadly, if you can't see them, you'll have to go onto the WP Tavern article. They look nice. Just building blocks, the way to get you started. You know, they're not necessarily going to be used by you throughout your site forever and ever, amen. But there might be some ideas in here. But it's going to grow. I would imagine that those 70 volunteers, give it a bit of time, will creep up. I don't know if those numbers have sort of solidified or have they been growing slowly over time, but go and get yourself stuck into this if design is your forte. How are we doing with that one? Anybody else?
I think it's the stuff like that exists in the other page builders. I mean, for Beaver Builder, it's a safe template or all those pre-constructed templates. I mean, you need to look into the UI and how much you can change, or in the end, they are just another name for saved blocks. I don't know, or some like a group of blocks saved.
Yeah, that's it.
Stuff like that. And I'm sure it's difficult to name that kind of stuff. I'm not quite sure you can really put you in a distinct position, because most of the obvious stuff is I mean, you have an image, you have a text left, right, whatever. So I think it will be very fast becoming very hard to say, okay, why is this one better than that, or what's you know what I mean?
I do
make yourself know. I mean, okay, yes, if you do it well and you make proper additions for mobile stuff, because that's the really interesting part of it. How do they work then in the mobile view? So you don't need to always do it again. But yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if a lot of these patterns that will actually use the word patterns will come out as more niche industries. I see that just like themes almost, you know.
Yeah.
Here's the patterns for the restaurant. Here's patterns for whatever
Yes.
you know, business and stuff. And that's where they'll kind of look the same in a way, like Bernard said. I mean, you know, it'll be like, what makes this better? Oh, but this one allows restaurant menu items versus this one could do the same thing, but it's obvious what this one does.
There's a couple of people in this field that spring to my mind. The first one is Mike Oliver, and he's already selling access to a predefined to a set of patterns. So he's made a bunch of patterns that you can use. I can't remember if there's a constraint, because I know that he's very keen on generate press. I think there might be a
use this
constraint.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you need generate blocks. Their block sort of add-on to do complicated layouts. I don't know if you need that, but you can certainly get predefined. And so there's an industry, and then in the very near future, Brian Gardner is going to be releasing, he may have done already, Frost, which is a very similar thing, this time built off the back of Genesis, which is now freely available. And so these two gentlemen are going to be hopefully making a career out of selling beautifully designed patterns. And if these two are doing it, I can't see why other people wouldn't wish to try to do it. The nice thing the thing that I kind of like about it is that it could become really atomized, and it could be that you get almost like little micro payments because you only want 2 or 3 little solutions. You don't need the entire suite. You just want the header one. So you go to the website and you pay maybe, I don't know, $5 for all the headers, but you don't really want all the other stuff because you're able to do that yourself, or you just like the look of the footer. I'm going to give you $3 to give me all the footers. I've no idea if that kind of ecosystem will come around. And to Bernard's point, I have no idea how people are going to surface to the top on here. We've obviously seen countless examples in the WordPress plugin repository where, you know, different things have been tried, star ratings, number of installs are used as different ways of surfacing people to the top. But I'm almost sure that once you get past 1,000, it's going to be too difficult to use unless something's built in to surface good work.
I see the patterns more like you get a theme and a set of patterns that suit it well, or you get like you have it with, as a beaver builder guy, like we have it with Astra or others, where you get sort of pre-built sites, and then you have your rows and your stuff you can use, which are all in the same design style like that. So you can just replace the text and maybe change the main color, and you have a decent looking site. So it's just pre-built, and you don't need to grab your blocks from 10 different sources or whatever blocks over there and still need to change the color or, I don't know, the padding because the one block doesn't fit the other. I think, but I'm not sure, it will be more like you get a set to build your whole site. Like pre-built blocks, and then you can choose, okay, I want this block and this block and this block. And the more interesting question is how to hide all the other stuff from the editor so you don't get messed up on your own site. So it's because if you look now in Gutenberg, there are all the blocks you have, and if you don't take care of it, it's I don't know, do you use this one or this one or that one?
And it does create a little thumbnail of the entire thing. So if it's a long block and you've got 3 or 4 long blocks, or patterns, I should say, then it's going to quickly go down the page. Yep. And also the install process at the moment for Mike Oliver's is it's what we've got, but it's not perhaps as seamless as you'd hope for in the future. You've got to download all these little mini JSON files, and you have to go and upload them. And they, you know, the name comes along for the ride, so at least they've got a suitable name. I mean, he just called them like header 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you'd have to figure out over time which ones you preferred. But you have to go and upload them, and this obviously will hopefully in the future obviate the need for that. You just go and find the one that you like the look of. Looks like they're all given. If I just put that back on the screen again, looks like they're all given the same amount of space. So they've like a theme thumbnail. They've all got a little rectangle, and obviously they're going to have to try and advertise what it is that they're best at in that tiny little rectangle. There's the image of the day. Look, me staring through my own fingers. And you'll obviously have to, just decide how you want to market it there. Some people have put some more text in, and so on.
I fear that's like the maintainability of all the stuff. Okay, that's the developer speaking, but you don't know who built it, when was it built. I don't know, did Gutenberg change in between? Do they need an update when Gutenberg changes? Will there be an update because it's free? Because that's nice and shiny, but we all know from Unix and packet managing and stuff like that, that's not easy to keep stuff on a level where everything works together. And if you mix down blocks from 7 different authors because you like the look and feel of them, then maybe they don't look the same on mobile. Okay, so it's kind of tempting on at first glance. Yeah, nice, I grabbed that thing, but will it work out in a year or 2?
Yeah.
And I think one thing is missing in WordPress is this more global color palette, because Cadence started solving it and others tried, but we are still not. And then your client can go in, oh, I changed that color or that color. Oh, it's much stuff to deactivate to keep people from doing the wrong things.
Okay. Anything else, anybody, or shall we move on? I do think this is exciting, though. Personally, I'm quite excited.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, just a couple of bits that have. Well, actually, I'll just do this one very quickly because I think it's worth mentioning. I don't know if anybody was had any problems with this, but just so we're moving away from WordPress for a minute, and then we'll come back with something Michelle wants to talk about. And this is Akamai. It's not a company that I really have any familiarity with. I mean, I know the name, and they're a great big supplier of infrastructure throughout the internet. They had a big outage over the last week, which apparently took down almost like the whole of, I think it was Denmark's banking, which is just like, what? How, was it Denmark or the Netherlands? I can't remember in this post. Essentially, if you were somebody in whatever country it was, and I think it was the Netherlands, then you couldn't do banking because this company had gone down. Just think, this is so fascinating that we've let it come to this point. And I was thinking, it was sort of a slightly morbid thought. I was thinking, crikey, imagine my host just goes out of existence, or they have some sort of global outage. Almost everything that I rely on to make my life function is dependent upon other people and the infrastructure. And I don't know what it is that they're using for their infrastructure and what it is that they in turn are using for their infrastructure. And it's like a house of cards.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is have the little Akamai card at the bottom go boop, and everything down it comes.
It's kind of like when the big tanker in the Suez Canal just turned, and it has totally shook up all those transport businesses and stuff like around it. I had lately a guy for medical supplies talking, and he said even after it worked, it was very difficult because then some ships went around Africa and arrived at the same time, which like that they were coming from the Suez Canal. So now the next bottleneck was the port, because then they had too many ships at the same time to unload and reload, and it was a nightmare to get stuff delivered on time. So it's not a good thing that we are so reliable and then just in time and just when you need the stuff. And I think the same is happening partly in IT, because if you have an issue with Cloudflare or any major CDN or Amazon or whoever has an issue, whole networks can go down. I mean, it's even if you, not many people know that, but in the end, the internet isn't that one big net. It's many smaller and bigger companies running their servers and connecting them, and big routers in between. And one wrong configured router can cut off whole countries. Yeah, so it's amazing that it doesn't happen more weird shit. Yes, it's redundant and there are many different connections, but still, it's a very fragile system. One wrong command and
That's the thing that I got out of this article, is just how fragile it all is. And obviously, companies like Akamai, presumably they have some seriously clever people who are well paid to sit there watching screens for the moment it goes, and the red lights come on and things start spinning and, helicopters land and the SAS jump out and all of that. But still, somebody like me sitting there, it didn't affect me in any way that's discernible. But if I was in, I'm going to say the Netherlands again, it probably wasn't, and I suddenly couldn't use my bank for a seriously long period, I think it was like a whole day or something, that's a big deal, because this company in some far remote part of the world that I have no relationship with has a problem. I think, Michelle, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to coin a new term now. I'm going to call it Internet Jenga. So it depends on where you are and what piece gets removed and how it gets put back on the top, whether you're affected or it's the key piece that topples everything.
It says that the cause of it was, where's it gone? Let me just go and find it. It says the cause was the Akamai Edge and GTM service that experienced an outage that took down some of the most popular websites in the world, bringing banking, gaming, and news websites to a standstill. The reason for the outage was a software update that caused a bug in the DNS system, a system that converts, names to IP addresses.
So it's like, for them not that technical people, it's like the telephone book of the internet.
Yes, that's right.
That's how I like to put it. So you don't remember your telephone number, that's like the IP address, but you remember the domain name. And if those services go down, almost everything go down, because your browser asks for, I don't know, WP builds, and there is no answer where to go.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It just
and Cameron Jones probably just registered internetjenga.com, if I know him.
Yeah. If I wasn't on this call, I would have done that. That's
Cameron, it's all yours. If you want it, it's yours.
Domain. Yeah. The site will be up in a few minutes with patterns all over it, block patterns, or Brians as they're now called.
Brians,
it does concern me that because everything is so atomized, and I really don't have an understanding of how the food in my supermarket got there. I just know that I am able to walk in and purchase it with handy bits of paper, or not even that anymore, right? I just go and some ones and zeros pass over a line that maybe is operated by Akamai. That I just no insight into how this sort of stuff is all tied together. And in the UK at the moment, we're experiencing it's the spectre of. There's a lot of talk because we have this app, and if you've been in proximity of somebody who has a very high chance of having had COVID, it will ping you on the app, and then currently you're legally obliged to go into isolation. And there's been a lot of this happening because we've freed up society more. So there's no coincidence that more people are getting these pings. And they were saying that something like 100,000 haulier, so truck drivers, I don't know if you use the word haulier, 100,000 journeys per day are not happening at the moment. And I went into the supermarket yesterday and I saw the result, and it was kind of like, oh, so that's the result of an app. A phone app did this. It just prevented us all from getting food and so on. And I just thought, whoa.
Well, the stores finally have a good excuse for being out of some. Because if you ask now, they just say it's just, things are slowed down, not moving. So
Cameron's bought the domain. He says you got me. He was there. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was fascinating how much we rely on all this technology, but probably in the most part don't really have a clue as to how it all works. Michelle, it is over to you.
Yes.
You put this one.
I'm so excited about this. Yes. Text to Give is now live as part of GiveWP's offerings. So it does require that you have a Twilio account. So that you can tie into that texting, and you have a number through there to be able to text. But Text to Give is something that now anybody who's using GiveWP with a basic plan can use. So Text to Give, you text into the number that is assigned to your organization, the amount of money that you want to give, and it prompts you through the rest of how to give that money. Make that donation. So Text to Give is something that's live now, and we launched this on Thursday. I have not heard of anybody having difficulties with it yet, which is always a wonderful thing when you launch something brand new. You do have to have Stripe and Twilio, as it says there, but it makes it, as long as somebody has a phone signal and they have texting on their phone, so out of the older flip phones like my stepdad still has, probably won't work as well. But so you can text to give now.
Is it like a conversation? Do you initiate so you link Stripe and Twilio together in the back end of the plugin, I'm guessing, and then you initiate a conversation through a text message. So you text this number, and then does it sort of say, okay, how much would you like to donate? And then you put a number and it confirms back to you.
No, you actually donate. You text the number. So if I want to give $100 during, let's say that WordFest Live had been using this at the time, which of course we hadn't implemented it. It only came out the day before. But had we done that, somebody could have said, they would have just texted to the number 100 and they would have initiated that $100 donation. Okay.
So sorry, I'm still confused. There's a number that I need to put into I text to that number, and then immediately follow that with the number of dollars or whatever.
So I put in the top, like if I was going, like if the phone number that I'm texting to is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
I would put that at the top, and I would just text the number 100 to give $100. I don't have to initiate anything else. I just put in the number, and that will initiate the process by which to confirm the donation and put you through that process of making that donation.
This is really interesting, just from the point of view of let's say both. Well, Bob, myself, and Michelle we all create content which is largely driven by audio, and you really do have to get people to go to URLs, to go through forms. This is something which I can imagine people who produce podcasts, I mean, it's not going to be me probably, but that they could put this in their messaging at the beginning of their podcast, support the podcast, text whatever amount.
I'm gonna put it in every 5 minutes on mine.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Hey, by the way, did I tell you this? No.
To heck with Patreon. I don't want them having any part of it. It's just all about me and my podcast.
It's quite interesting. In North America, you have a real heritage of making phone numbers into words, don't you? I remember being in America, and phone numbers would be made into words, so that the three letters on the number one stand for A, B, or C, and so on. We literally don't have that. I've never heard any business do that. So we would still have to spell out the actual telephone number if you want people to do it. But that's just great.
Yeah, and Nathan, with what you said, I mean, Michelle, I'm thinking that's a whole market, because really, when you think about it, if any nonprofit, I mean, this is a market for podcasts that you're not even thinking of. And that's a good point, Nathan, because it's a pain to get people to, whatever. But if they're, if you are saying, hey, let's go ahead and,
you know what this is also good
do
for?
a fundraiser or something, or we want to, I'm thinking of my podcast. I could have used this to say, hey, in the middle, why don't you text this and give something to,
yeah, because
it's also really good
you're
for
watching. Sorry, go on.
Anytime you have a group of people in a room, right? So it's one thing when everybody is on your website. They don't need text to give when they're on your website already. But this is like, think about churches, for example. Everybody's in the room. Nobody has money to pull out of their pockets to put in the plate. Now they can just text to give during collection time. They can send $100 to the church. Let's say, I belong to the Rochester Women's Network, and we have 2 big events every year. Instead of writing out checks or trying to come up to a website and make a donation, all I have to do is pull out my phone. On the slideshow at the above, it says text to give. To text this number to support the Rochester Women's Network.
Honestly, I think this is really, really great. Just one thing. Off the back of, let's say that somebody donates $1 billion to WP Build. Anybody?
That's a lot of zeros.
Yeah, that is a lot. That's way too
I'd have to
zeros.
give the text large on my phone to make sure I'm not adding an extra one.
No offense, but I don't think Jeff Bezos is listening.
Yeah. No, he's in space, isn't he? No. Let's say somebody gives me $10. Is there a way off the back of that a relationship can be created, so I can capture emails?
It's going to be in your website. Yeah, it's going to be in your website. So you're going to have, it's still going to be in your list of donations and donors and things like that. So you're still going to be able to have that relationship marketing relationship with donor relationship with your donors. Absolutely.
I really feel this is a cool thing, and it's going to have loads of unexpected ways of doing it, because it's so easy to say that out loud. And I think podcasts and YouTubers, that kind of thing. And the nice thing is you've already got that thing in your hand, and you might be consuming the content on that thing, or you might be looking at the content on the thing in front of you, and that device is just right there. And I don't know. I just think it's a nice. Everybody's got a number.
And because we're excited about it, we are actually offering a 15% discount to make a purchase of one of our plans right now. So I think I sent it to you, Nathan. I don't remember off the top of my head what the actual discount is. Let me see. I've got it here too. It's text.
Oh yeah, yes. 2. Sorry, is it in the show notes?
It is. Text the number 2, give the number 15. So text the give 15.
Let me create a little caption
if you use
for that.
Yeah, so if you use that discount code at your checkout, you'll save 15% off your first year of using Give.
There we go. There it is. Give text to give, and discounts text with the number 2, give with the number 15 will get you 15% off. Nice.
For your first year.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And if I can tease one more little thing.
Please. Oh, yeah. Did I put it up? Did I do it? No. Go on.
Nope. Yep. So this one isn't in there, but we are actually in the final stages of peer-to-peer giving. And so we will be soon having an add-on for peer-to-peer giving where somebody can enter from the front end of your website to create their own, spin up their own donation form on behalf of your organization. So, for example, like right now, St. Baldrick's, which does, shave your head, raise money for kids with cancer to make wigs, things like that. You can have your own, donation form with saying I'm trying to raise $200 and the gold bar moves across the bottom. We're creating an add-on for GiveWP that will make it possible for people to do that on your behalf.
So they can embed it in their own domain, or?
It will be on your website, but it will have its own dedicated donation page. So if your organization is abc.org, it'll be abc.org/Nathan's Fundraiser.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That is nice.
Not too bad.
Yeah, you're on a rip, aren't you? Okay, you guys are really.
I'm going to get myself on your calendar again for the show when that comes out, so I can show it off to you.
2 weeks from now, you'll be some revolutionary new product. That's great. Well done to the guys over at Give. That's
our developers are brilliant. I can't say enough good things about them.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely lovely. Great stuff. I have one pick of the week. I don't know if anybody wants to quickly think of something fun for this week, but I'm going to throw one in. It's got nothing to do with WordPress or technology or anything like that. This is just the best photo I've seen in a long time. I'm going to have to zoom in here. So this is somebody who took a picture, and can you see that? Just look at it. Can you see the face there? And the article is entitled "Neptune Appears in the Waves During Storm in New Haven." So what I'm showing is a picture, and just right here, if that isn't a human face, isn't that cool?
It's called pareidolia.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? So it's somebody who just by pure coincidence managed to capture the 10 millionth of a second when all of the bits of a crashing wave on a pier aligned to make it look as if there was a face just pushing itself out the water. It's like something out of Lord of the Rings or something.
Just add a trident. That's all you need.
Very good Photoshop skills.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. But I think it's real.
Cameron, oh my gosh.
Two little eyes just there and there, little nose and a top lip and a bottom lip and a bit of hair at the top.
Looks like a little bit of mustache there too, maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's a mustache, and you can see a little bit of ear if you have a fantasy.
The nice thing is you can all see it. About a year ago, I was browsing the paper and there was a photo of somebody who'd created a muffin. They'd baked a muffin and they took it out the oven and they said it looks like Mother Teresa. Honestly, I turned that page upside down every which way. There was no Mother Teresa there. It was just a muffin. Whereas this, definitely there's Neptune there. Any of you three want to mention anything that's happened to you this week? If not, we'll knock it on the head and say.
Yeah, okay. Real quick, Nathan. Yeah. Last time I did, I told everybody about the word spuddle. So I always find these bizarre little things that are non-WordPress. And I just have to mention this, even though probably nobody will care about it. It's one of my old classic movies I love called Notorious. And there's a line in that just is priceless. This guy really screws up and everything. And his mother says, "You are protected by the enormity of your stupidity." And I thought that is a line that has just stuck with me. That just so that's my ending word from.
I love it. Here. Yeah, that's great. We have you come across the phrase like the luck of the Irish? The Irish. The idea that you just can stumble through life, and no matter how much you accidentally or deliberately try to mess it up, just good stuff keeps happening.
And I have a little bit of Irish in me, and that's never happened. I stumble and I fall flat.
Not enough.
Yeah.
I swear it's true, though. I swear in my life I know people who just have relentlessly good luck to the point where it's like, this is not a coincidence. This is just unfair. How does this keep happening? My son, when I play board games with him, honestly, this is not a lie, he always wins. Like 100% of the time. When he was little, we played Snakes and Ladders a lot. It was ridiculous to the point where it was, I'm not playing. I'm just not playing.
I'm done with you, kid.
I was going to say that says a lot about him, but it also says a lot about you, Nathan. So we'll leave it there.
Well, okay, there we go. tomorrow, WP Coffee Talk will have a new episode. It's been on hiatus while I worked on WordFest, but tomorrow's episode with Chris Lemma will be published. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay, thank you. WP Coffee Talk. And Bob, you must have some episodes coming out, I would have thought.
Oh, yeah. There's here and there different people roaming around. I can't remember who's coming.
That's
but there's some people.
There's some people
that'll be on there. I think Lemma's supposed to be on there in the future again sometime for the.
Hey, here's a question, totally unrelated to WordPress, but podcasting in general. I've got a 2-week holiday coming up, and so I'm going to be going away. Do you guys take a holiday, or do you work harder before and schedule the episodes?
I'm
haven't
fortunate
published
right
anything
now.
in weeks.
Okay.
Right. I used to never do it, but now I have co-hosts that run the shows without me. I mean, I do the production stuff, but they so I just can throw them in and stuff. So
nice.
Yeah. So
push out old episodes over social so people can find them again and relearn people and that kind of thing.
Yeah. There's ways to do it.
Yeah. I've had this streak where I just don't want to not do it, and so I do the opposite for this show because it's live and we can't. I'm away. It's not possible. But for the podcast one, I'm backing them up and making sure that this one's coming out. But
why not, Nathan? Like on the beach with a nice background. Why not?
That's right.
like the beach episode.
A few years
with
ago,
him holding the candle up, blocking the sun.
That's right. A few years ago, I trusted David Wormsley to put an episode out for me, and it was actually quite funny. For the first 3 minutes, he edited the audio and he would ask me contrary questions, and he found bits of audio that matched. Like the wrong answer or something. I can't remember these. But he would ask me a question, then he would get the bit of audio where I'd say the complete wrong thing. And there's about 4 or 5 minutes
how do
of
you
this.
feel about Gutenberg? And Nathan's like, it's rubbish. Utter
exactly
rubbish.
like that. It was inspired, but it must have taken him ages. Bless his.
What I'm going to do, Nathan, is I'm going to send you the file and have you read it on Descript, that service. And then the AI will actually create your voice, and I can have you. I'll basically interview you and have you answer whatever I want to say a certain way. So that'll be fun. So enjoy your vacation.
Your reputation will be in tatters. There'll just be a sweary Nathan that's produced loads of content.
He comes back more stressed out than when he left.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed this. This has been a really nice, jokey episode. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it too. We'll be back next week. No, we won't. We're having 2 weeks off. We're not back next week. Oh my goodness.
See you in August.
We're having 2 weeks. See you in the middle of August. We've got the Awkward Wave thing coming up. So I'm going to say thank you to Michelle. Thank you to Bob. Thank you to Bernard. We'll see you in 3 weeks' time. Take it easy. Bye-bye. Bye.